Today, let's discuss missing your divine masculine and what that is really all about. So, we all know that feeling when we want to pick up our phone, open up messages, find our divine masculine in our contacts, and type the words, "I miss you." Even before you hit send, your intuition is probably asking you to stop and question what you were doing. If you do hit send immediately, you might feel like, oh shit, what did I just do? This right here is where a ton of healing needs to happen. You will also need to understand yourself and how you end up here. I will tell you that there are many parts to you. There is your higher self, your inner child, your soul, your ego, and then there are some other miscellaneous parts that differ in all of us. I would invite you at some point to sit quietly and call in each one of these parts. Or just over time, as different feelings come up, start to recognize and name these parts. And ask them what they are all about. Understand them and their motives. This will help you identify which one you are acting out of when you take action on anything in your life. The more you get to know these parts of you, the more you can properly identify how you should take action. For those of you wondering, yes, the soul and the higher self are different. For example, you are one soul frequency with your twin flame, but each one of you has your own higher selves. The higher self knows everything it needs to know already, whereas the soul is here for the experiment of this life and the duality of planet Earth. It is here to learn lessons as you evolve from lower self to higher self. Some of these parts of you were made out of matrix programming. You should not feel shame about them being there ever. The secret to all of this is learning how to make them work in harmony together. Learning when not to act on their wants and desires. We all know we want our higher self and our soul around. But how about the ego and the inner child? Yes, you need them as well. The ego helps you progress in life while also protecting you. And your inner child is your innocence, compassion, and creativity all rolled up into one. When the divine masculine leaves, the ego and the inner child get extremely triggered. These two also have a tendency to team up with each other. The ego is the most hurt of all when the divine masculine leaves. It will want you to put things back together. Now, because your inner child is so innocent and always seeking love, the ego knows it can use him or her to its benefit. This makes it easy for the ego to play with the inner child. When you haven't yet done work with your ego, which some call ego deaths, which the ego isn't really dying, you are just controlling it instead of it controlling you. But when you haven't had those so-called ego deaths, it cannot handle someone leaving, and the ego takes everything personally. It is highly geared to keep things the way they are, to keep people around. It doesn't know or care if these people aren't in your highest alignment. The ego's only mission is to keep you safe, help you survive. So it also works in partnership with your mind. And the two of them are very short-term focused. They want immediate relief and immediate action. They take relief in you hitting the send button on that message. This is you working for your mind and your ego instead of you making them work for you. So we know now that the ego is hurt. It has most of that pain that you are feeling. But let's talk about the inner child for a moment. and the pain you feel through them. Your inner child most likely still has a bunch of unhealed stuff. This usually looks like abandonment, people-pleasing, and an extremely unhealthy form of needing validation. Again, no need to ever feel shame here. You can heal him or her through inner child work. I have videos on this topic. I'll go ahead and link them at the end of this video. In separation, especially at the beginning, the inner child will feel extreme hurt. That is the old wounding coming to the surface. Primarily abandonment. That one tends to hurt the most. But then you can easily see how the ego and the inner child will team up on the loss of validation that you feel, the feeling that remains because your counterpart left. When they do this, your thoughts run rampant, and these thoughts turn into emotions. If you don't know how to release emotions properly and move on to something more positive in your life, you will tend to act on them. And so here you are with your phone in hand, and out come the words, "I miss you." Let's revisit the original question. Do you actually miss your twin flame? Of course, there were great moments the two of you had together, and this person is your spiritual catalyst. Therefore, they do mean something to you, probably a lot to you. But missing the person as a whole, that is the question when you get to the other side of healing, inner child work, ego deaths, etc. You see just how small the missing part actually is, and how big it was really just unhealed parts of you. Once you can work through those parts, the feelings are a lot more manageable, and you can choose when to set them aside and when to call them in. Actually, they'll more automatically be set aside, and you'll only through conscious action decide if you want to call them in. It will no longer be this uncontrollable or involuntary, and definitely no longer obsessive action. There will be no codependency, no feeling of abandonment, and no neediness whatsoever. When the DM decides to be a part of your life again, you can take time to observe the work he or she has done on him or herself. You can decide how much of their life you want to be a part of. If the universe has decided it's divine timing though, well, that's a completely different story, because that means you have both done enough work and won't be susceptible to hurting each other anymore. It will be a new mountain to climb, don't get me wrong, but the running and the chasing will be a thing of the past. This can sound a little foreign if you haven't gotten to the other side yet. The side where you've done the work on yourself. You just won't see the big picture until you start passing through what I like to call the tunnels. On the other side of these tunnels, you realize that missing your divine masculine was a part of the illusion. It's trauma, pain, and codependency, all created by the Matrix to keep you weak. The twin flame journey will make you strong on the inside. It will help you learn detachment. You'll look back and not really recognize who you were before. Sometimes I have to remind myself that it was only 5 years ago that I was an Ambien, alcohol, cigarette addict, and that I drowned myself in these things because I couldn't see any other way out. My dad passing away sent me over the edge, and it took almost 7 years to fully recover. When I was going through all of that, I had a hard time finding people who were on a healing journey. I remember asking my life coach for resources and her telling me that she knew nothing about how to heal childhood trauma or where to go for it. Because of this, Spirit asked me for 3 years to write a book and start speaking about how to get to the other side. There is a link below for my book on the twin flame journey. This includes talking about the healing process. You are not alone in this, and I have a healing playlist on this channel that you can check out as well. The matrix, along with all of the trauma it creates, leads you to believe a number of things that actually aren't true. It makes us believe that if we can't touch something, it must not be there. If we can't hold something, see it, or touch it, then it doesn't exist. But a twin flame goes beyond the tangible, and the more you try to hold on to them in the physical, the further they will get from you. It's just how the universe works. They are your soul, something you cannot see or touch, but certainly can feel and experience. The twin flame journey is all about belief and detachment. This is in order to help you step into the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension. The fourth dimension is where you are with no ego, no hurt, just full love and full light. Although you are human and can't stay there all the time. The goal is to try stepping into the higher vibrational area as much as you can without spiritually bypassing. The right way to do that is to balance feeling your emotions in a healthy way and doing healing work when necessary. Despite what some say, you do not need to do healing work forever. There is a point where you get to what I call the maintenance phase. This is where thoughts will come up and you can easily say, that doesn't belong to me, or that's not mine. Or if the ego wants to act on something, you might say, not today. If the inner child might be hurt, you explain to them why you can't act on their feelings. Best thing is to pretend like you have a 5-year-old sitting in front of you. And while this is happening, the most healing thing in the world is to sometimes discuss what's going on with your divine masculine. For my inner child, when I explained to her my divine masculine's inner child, I let her know that our counterpart has not yet connected with his little boy. I let her feel all the compassion that she needs or wants to. But I tell her, or have told her, that I'm protecting her by not reaching out to someone who cannot currently care for her. I explain that because he isn't healed, some of his actions are fear coming from his inner child. Whether that is being scared of love or scared of us, that is a reflection of him and not her. It's because his inner child doesn't feel loved by him and therefore doesn't feel loved by anyone. When you add in the divine masculine ego along with that, you can see why they are not ready for love. When I did this, my inner child was very receptive to this. These conversations really helped us bond. Proof once again that the divine masculine is actually our spiritual catalyst. So now you might be able to see that the part of you that is missing them is more about codependency and unhealed trauma than actually missing them. Here are the links for the inner child videos that you can check out next. I love you all, and I will see you in the next video.